Kiwu pressed his back against the cold metal wall as another group of Vralax warriors pushed past him. The massive aliens barely looked down as they shoved him aside like he was nothing more than a piece of trash in their way. One of them laughed, a deep booming sound that echoed through the corridor of Orbital Station Helix 7. "Watch where you stand, soft skin," the largest Vralax growled. Its voice sounded like rocks grinding together. Kiwu said nothing. He had learned that lesson in his first week on the station. Talking back to aliens who could break him in half with one hand was a stupid idea. He picked up his toolkit that had fallen to the floor and continued walking toward the maintenance bay. The station was huge, a massive wheel spinning in the darkness of space. It housed over 40 different alien species, all doing business in the neutral zone between their home worlds. Humans were the newest members of the Galactic Concordance, and everyone knew it. Everywhere Kiwu went, he felt eyes on him. Sometimes curious, often mocking, always aware that he was different. He entered the maintenance office and found Hyasun reviewing work orders on a data screen. She was the chief engineer for the human crew, a woman in her 40s with tired eyes and graying hair pulled back in a tight knot. "You're late," she said without looking up. "Vralax in Corridor 9, Kiwu replied. That was all the explanation needed. Hyasun sighed and turned to face him. "Listen, Kiwu, I know it's hard, but you need to move faster, stay out of their way, keep your head down. We're guests here. Less than guests, really. We're the new kids, and everyone wants to see if we can handle it." Kiwu nodded. He understood. Humans were weak by galactic standards. They needed special atmosphere controls because they couldn't breathe half the air mixtures other species used. They needed moderate gravity because high-gravity species thought the station's normal pull was like walking on a cloud. They needed sleep cycles and regular food and water and a dozen other things that made them seem fragile. "What's today's assignment?" he asked. Hyasun pulled up a list. "Pressure check on Docking Bay 12. Should be simple. In and out, 2 hours maximum." Kiwu took the data pad and left. The walk to the docking bay took him through the main commerce ring, where aliens of every size and shape conducted business. The Chithraks, insect-like beings with clicking mandibles, barely acknowledged his existence. The Mindari, floating jellyfish-like creatures with psychic abilities, sent waves of pity in his direction that made his skin crawl. Even the small, furry Pixith seemed to look down on him, despite being half his height. He passed a group of Vralax guards standing near a security checkpoint. Their captain, a scarred brute named Gormath, watched him with yellow eyes. "Look," Gormath said to his companions, "a human. Tell me, Softskin, how does your species survive? You can't fight. You can't adapt. You need machines to do everything for you." The other guards laughed. Kiwu kept walking, his face burning with shame and anger. But he kept walking. Docking Bay 12 was quiet when he arrived. Ships came and went at all hours. But right now, the bay was empty, except for cargo containers waiting to be loaded. Kiwu pulled out his scanner and began checking the pressure seals along the main doors. Everything looked normal. He worked methodically, checking each seal, each valve, each connection point. The work was calming. Here, alone with machines and systems he understood, he didn't have to think about being the weakest person on the station. He was just an engineer doing his job. That's when he noticed the door. It was marked with symbols he didn't recognize, red and black warnings in multiple languages. A sign in human English read, "Forbidden Sector, Apex Containment Zone, Authorized Personnel Only." Kiwu knew he should ignore it, but something made him curious. He had heard rumors about the containment zones. Places where the station kept dangerous creatures, the most deadly predators from worlds across the galaxy. Research specimens, some said, trophies, others whispered. He moved closer to the door, trying to read the alien text. His hand brushed against a sensor panel and suddenly alarms began screaming. Red lights flashed. The door didn't open, but somewhere in the station's security network, his presence had been recorded. "No, no, no," Kiwu muttered, frantically trying to cancel the alert. But it was too late. Heavy footsteps thundered down the corridor. Gormath and his guards arrived within minutes, weapons drawn. "What did you do?" Gormath roared, grabbing Kiwu by the front of his uniform and lifting him off the ground like he weighed nothing. "You tried to breach containment? Are you insane?" "I didn't. I was just checking the pressure seals. I touched it by accident." Gormath threw him against the wall. Pain exploded through Kiwu's shoulder. "Humans," the Vralax captain spat. "You're not just weak, you're stupid. Prey species playing at civilization. You don't belong here. You don't belong in space at all." Other aliens had gathered now, drawn by the commotion. They watched as Gormath and his guards dragged Kiwu away from the forbidden door. They watched and they whispered, and they agreed. Humans were weak, humans were soft, humans were prey. Later, after filing his report and receiving an official reprimand, Kiwu sat alone in the human quarters. His shoulder ached where Gormath had thrown him. His pride hurt worse. High Sun found him there. She sat down beside him without saying anything for a long moment. "I want to go home," Kiwu finally said. "I know," High Sun replied, "but we can't. Humanity fought for centuries to reach the stars. We finally made it. And now everyone's watching to see if we fail. We're not like them. We'll never be like them." "No," Yi-sun agreed. "We won't. But maybe that's not a bad thing." Kiwu didn't answer. He stared at the metal walls of their quarters and wondered what was behind those forbidden doors. What kind of creatures were so dangerous that even the mighty Vralax kept them locked away? He didn't know then that he would soon find out. He didn't know that behind one of those doors waited something that would change everything, something that saw the universe very differently than the aliens who called humans weak. Something that would look at Kiwu and see not prey, but family. The alarms had stopped now. The station returned to normal. And Kiwu went to sleep, not knowing that his life was about to change forever. The emergency alarm woke Kiwu from a dead sleep. Red lights flashed in the human quarters as the station's AI voice announced the crisis in multiple languages. "Containment breach in Sector 9. All personnel evacuate immediately. This is not a drill. Containment breach in Sector 9. Kiwu's heart raced as he pulled on his uniform. Sector 9. That was one of the apex containment zones, the places where they kept the galaxy's most dangerous predators. His communication device buzzed. It was Yi-sun. "Kiwu, they need engineers at Sector 9. The containment field failed. We have to try to restore it before they vent the entire sector to space." "What got loose?" Kiwu asked, already running toward the door. There was a pause. "Cell 14. A Vex run." Kiwu's blood went cold. He had heard stories about Vex runs. Everyone had. They were Category X threats, apex predators from a death world on the far side of the galaxy. 12 feet tall, covered in black scales harder than most armor, with claws that could tear through starship hulls. And worst of all, they were smart. As intelligent as any sentient species, but with none of the restraint civilization brought. The Vex runs had wiped out 2 colony worlds before the Concordance quarantined their planet. The one on the station was a research specimen, captured after it destroyed a science outpost single-handedly. "I'm on my way," Kiwu said, though every instinct screamed at him to run in the opposite direction. He met Tysic at the maintenance bay. The other human engineer was young, barely 20, and his hands shook as he gathered tools. "This is insane," Tysic said. "They should just vent the sector now. Why are they waiting?" "There are maintenance crews trapped inside," Hyasun explained through their communication devices. "They were working on the power grid when containment failed. The emergency doors sealed automatically. We need to restore power to the backup containment field so security can get them out." Kiwu and Taesik ran through the corridors. Other aliens fled in the opposite direction. Even the mighty Vralax guards looked nervous. Gormath passed them, barking orders to his troops to secure the outer perimeter. "Humans," Gormath said when he saw them. "You're going in there? You'll die in seconds." "People are trapped," Kaiwu replied. Gormath laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Then they're already dead. Vexrans don't leave survivors." The entrance to Sector 9 looked like a war zone. Security barriers had been erected, and armed guards from multiple species stood ready. None of them looked eager to enter. A Chithrax officer directed Kiwu and Taesik to a service entrance. "The main power conduit is 30 meters inside," the officer clicked. "Restore it, and we can activate backup containment. But be quick. The Vexran is somewhere in there." The service entrance was small, barely large enough for the two humans to crawl through. Emergency lighting cast everything in dim red. The air felt wrong, thick with the smell of ozone and something else, something animal. "Stay close," Kiwu whispered to Taesik. "We do this fast and get out." They moved through maintenance tunnels, following the power conduit. The station's normal sounds were absent here. No hum of air recyclers, no footsteps of passing aliens. Just silence and the pounding of Kiwu's heart. They found the power junction in a small chamber. The panel had been damaged, likely during the initial containment failure. Kiwu began working on repairs while Taesik kept watch. "How long?" Taesik asked, his voice tight with fear. 5 minutes. Maybe less." A sound echoed through the tunnels, metal scraping against metal. Both humans froze. "What was that?" Taesik whispered. Another sound, closer this time, heavy footsteps that made the floor vibrate slightly. "It knows we're here," Kiwu said, his hands moving faster on the panel. "Just give me 2 more minutes." But Taesik's nerve broke. The young engineer stood up and ran, abandoning Kiwu in the chamber. "Taesik, wait!" Kiwu called, but it was too late. The scream came seconds later, short, cut off abruptly. Then nothing. Kiwu's hands shook so badly he could barely hold his tools. Taesik was dead. He knew it with absolute certainty, and now the Vexran would come for him. He forced himself to focus on the panel. If he could restore power, maybe the security teams could activate containment. Maybe they could save the others still trapped in here. Maybe his death would mean something. The footsteps came closer, heavy, deliberate, not rushing. The Vexran wasn't hunting now. It was approaching with the confidence of something that had no natural enemies. Kiwu finished the last connection. Power hummed back to life in the conduit. Green lights flashed on the panel. Done. He turned slowly, knowing what he would see. The Vexran stood in the doorway of the chamber. It was massive, even larger than Kiwu had imagined. Its body was covered in scales that looked like polished obsidian, reflecting the red emergency lights. Its eyes glowed with an intelligence that was almost human, but colder, more calculating. Its claws, each as long as Kiwu's forearm, scraped against the metal doorframe. Kiwu couldn't run. There was nowhere to go. The creature blocked the only exit, so he did the only thing he could think of. He made himself small. He sat down slowly, keeping his hands visible, empty of weapons. He didn't scream. He didn't try to fight. He just waited. The Vexran entered the chamber, its head nearly touching the ceiling. It moved with a grace that seemed impossible for something so large. Each step was precise, controlled. It approached Kiwu and stopped 2 meters away. Then it did something unexpected. It lowered its head and sniffed the air around him. Its nostrils flared, taking in his scent. Its eyes, those intelligent eyes, studied him with an intensity that made Kiwu feel transparent. Kiwu's mind raced. He remembered reading something once in a xenobiology report. Predators assess threats before attacking. They look for signs of danger, signs of resistance. "I'm not a threat to you," Kiwu said softly, his voice barely above a whisper. "I'm just trying to help people. I'm not here to hurt you." The Vexran tilted its head, an almost curious gesture. A low rumble came from deep in its chest. Not quite a growl, something else. Kiwu kept talking, keeping his voice calm and even. They keep you locked up here. I'm sorry for that. You probably hate all of us. But I'm not like the guards. I'm just an engineer. I fix things. That's all I do. The Vexran took another step closer. Close enough now that Kiwu could feel the heat radiating from its body. Close enough that one swipe of those claws would end his life. It leaned down, bringing its massive head level with Kiwu's. Its breath was hot against his face. He could see rows of teeth designed to tear and rend. Then the Vexran did something that would change everything. It made a sound, softer than before, almost gentle. And then it turned and walked away, disappearing into the darkness of the maintenance tunnels. Kiwu sat there stunned for a long moment. He was alive. The deadliest predator in the known galaxy had found him, alone and helpless, and had simply left. His communication device crackled to life. Kiwu, the power's restored. Security teams are moving in. Get to the extraction point now. Kiwu stood on shaking legs and ran, but as he fled through the tunnels, one thought kept repeating in his mind. Why did it spare me? The security debriefing lasted 3 hours. Kiwu sat in a sterile white room while officers from multiple species questioned him. How did he survive? What did the Vexran do? Why didn't it kill him? I don't know, Kiwu answered for the 20th time. It just looked at me and left. The Chithrak security officer clicked its mandibles in frustration. That makes no sense. Vexrans are killing machines. They don't spare prey. Maybe I wasn't acting like prey, Kiwu suggested quietly. That got attention. A human woman, Kiwu hadn't met before, leaned forward. She was younger than Hyasun, with sharp eyes and a data pad covered in notes. Explain that, she said. I didn't run. I didn't scream. I made myself small and spoke calmly. Maybe it didn't see me as a threat or as prey. The woman smiled slightly. I'm Dr. So-Min. I'm the station's xenobiologist, specializing in apex predator species, and I think you might be onto something. After the debriefing ended, Dr. So-Min asked Kiwu to come to her lab. The space was filled with screens showing data on dozens of dangerous species. In one corner, a live feed showed the Vexran's cell. The creature had been recaptured using sleeping gas and stun nets. It now paced in its reinforced containment area, looking agitated. The station designation for it is V741, Dr. So-Min explained. But that's cold. Clinical. The truth is, we don't know much about Vexrans beyond the fact that they're deadly. They've never communicated with any species they attack on sight. Until today. She pulled up footage from the security cameras in Sector 9. Kiwu watched himself sitting in that chamber, watched the Vexran approach, watched it spare his life. Look here, Dr. So-Min pointed at the screen. The way it tilts its head, that's a recognition gesture. It's processing information, making a decision. And here, she advanced the footage, when it leans close to you. That's scent-marking behavior. It's learning your chemical signature. Why would it do that? Kiwu asked. Because Vexrans have complex social structures. In the wild, they live in packs, family groups. They recognize pack members by scent and behavior. Somehow, Kiwu, you didn't trigger its prey response. You triggered something else. Over the next week, Dr. So-Min convinced the station authorities to let her study the interaction between Kiwu and V741. They agreed reluctantly, setting up strict safety protocols. Kiwu would approach the containment cell's reinforced viewing window. Nothing more. The first session was terrifying. Kiwu stood before the transparent barrier while the Vexran watched him from across the cell. Dr. So-Min monitored from a safe distance, recording everything. Just be yourself, she encouraged. Act natural. Kiwu felt stupid talking to a giant predator, but he tried. Hello, I'm Kiwu. I'm the one from Sector 9. You remember me? The Vexran's eyes focused on him. It moved closer to the barrier, studying him with that same intense intelligence. I never got to thank you, Kiwu continued, for not killing me. I know you could have. I know I was defenseless, but you left me alone. So, thank you. The Vexran made that sound again, the low rumble Kiwu had heard before. Up close, through the barrier, it sounded almost like a purr, almost friendly. Kaiwu came back the next day, and the day after. Each time, the Vexran seemed less agitated, more interested. It would approach the barrier when Kiwu arrived. It would watch him with what almost looked like curiosity. On the fifth day, Kiwu brought food. Not for himself, for the Vexran. Fresh meat from the station's supplies. He placed it in the feeding slot and stepped back. The Vexran ignored the food. Instead, it pressed its clawed hand against the barrier directly in front of where Kiwu stood. It wants contact, Dr. Somin breathed. That's incredible. Can I? Kiwu asked, raising his own hand. The barrier is reinforced. It should be safe. Kiwu pressed his hand against the transparent wall, matching the Vexran's gesture. The creature's hand was massive, its palm as large as Kiwu's entire chest. But the gesture was gentle. They stood like that for a long moment, human and predator, separated by technology but connected by something neither fully understood. After 2 weeks, Kaiwu made a decision that everyone called insane. He asked to enter the cell. Absolutely not, the station commander said. That creature is Category X. It's killed dozens of sentients. One moment of calm doesn't change what it is. But Dr. Somin supported the idea. If we're ever going to understand these creatures, we need to take risks. Kiwu has established a connection. I believe it's safe. You believe? The commander shouted. You're willing to bet a man's life on a belief? Yes, Dr. Somin said firmly. And so is Kiwu. They implemented every safety measure possible. Armed guards outside the cell. Emergency protocols ready. Dr. Somin would be in direct communication with Kaiwu, ready to trigger sleeping gas if anything went wrong. Kaiwu stood before the cell door, his heart pounding. He thought about Tai-Sik, dead in the tunnels. He thought about every warning he'd received about Vexrons. He thought about running away. Then he thought about the way the creature had spared him, the way it had approached the barrier each day, the way it had matched his gesture with its own. The door opened. Kiwu stepped inside. The Vexran was at the far side of the cell, watching. For several heartbeats, neither moved. Then the creature took a step forward, then another. It approached slowly, giving Kiwu time to retreat if he wanted. But Kiwu stood his ground, hands visible, posture open and non-threatening. The Vexran stopped directly in front of him. This close, without the barrier, it was even more terrifying. Every instinct screamed at Kaiwu to run, but he stayed. The creature leaned down, bringing its head to Kiwu's level, and then it did something that made Dr. Somin gasp over the communication link. It gently pressed its forehead against Kiwu's chest. The gesture was tender, careful. The Vexran's scales were warm against Kiwu's uniform. He could feel the creature's breath, slow and steady. Don't move, Dr. Somin whispered. That's a pack-bonding gesture. It's accepting you as family. Kiwu raised his hand slowly and rested it on the Vexran's head. The creature rumbled that deep purr of contentment. You need a name, Kiwu said softly. V741 doesn't fit you. You're not just a number. You're... He looked at the creature's dark scales. You're Ash. That's your name now. The Vexran, Ash, pulled back and looked at Kiwu with those intelligent eyes. It made a sound softer than before, almost like agreement. From that day forward, everything changed. Kiwu visited Ash every day. They developed a routine. Kiwu would talk about his work, his frustrations with the other species, his homesickness for Earth. Ash would listen, occasionally making sounds that Kiwu learned to interpret. A low rumble meant contentment. A sharper click meant curiosity. A soft huff meant amusement. Dr. So-Min's research revealed something remarkable. Vexrans bonded with pack members through behavioral cues that humans naturally displayed: emotional communication, loyalty, protective instincts. The things that made humans seem weak to species like the Vralax were exactly what made them recognizable to predators like Ash. Other species see strength as physical power, Dr. So-Min explained, but Vexrans are apex predators. They don't fear anything. What they value is connection, pack bonds. You showed Ash those qualities without even knowing it. Word spread through the station. The weak human had somehow tamed a Category X predator. Aliens who had mocked Kiwu now watched him with a mixture of fear and confusion. Gormath, the Vralax captain, stopped his taunts. But Kiwu didn't care about their opinions anymore. He had found something more valuable than their respect. He had found family among the stars, and soon that bond would be tested in ways neither Kiwu nor Ash could imagine. The attack came without warning. Kiwu was in the maintenance bay when the station's alarms began screaming. But these weren't containment breach alarms. These were worse. These were battle stations. All personnel to emergency shelters. The station is under attack. This is not a drill. All personnel to emergency shelters immediately. Hai-sun appeared in the doorway, her face pale. Pirates. The Bloodfang Marauders. They disabled our defense grid. They're boarding the station. Kiwu's stomach dropped. The Bloodfang Marauders were infamous across the sector. Led by a Vralax warlord named Korvax, they raided stations and ships, taking valuables and killing anyone who resisted. They showed no mercy to any species. "Get to the human quarters," Hai-sun ordered. "The emergency shelter there is reinforced. Go!" Kiwu ran. The corridors were chaos. Aliens fled in all directions, some toward shelters, others toward their ships in the docking bays. Security forces were mobilizing, but Kiwu could hear weapons fire echoing through the station. The pirates were already inside. He reached the human quarters to find most of the human crew already there. Engineers, scientists, support staff, all of them looking terrified. Dr. So-Min was among them, clutching her data pad. "They cut through the outer defenses like they were nothing," she said. "Someone sabotaged our systems from the inside. The security teams can't hold them." The sound of fighting grew closer. Weapons fire, screams, the heavy footsteps of Vralax warriors storming through the corridors. Then the door to the human quarters exploded inward. 3 Vralax pirates entered, their armor scorched from battle, weapons raised. Behind them came more, a dozen in total, each one massive and armed with weapons designed to kill. "Well, well," the leader laughed. "Humans. I heard the concordance let prey species join now." "This will be easy." Hai-sun stepped forward. "This is a civilian area. We're non-combatants. We have nothing you want." "You have something," the pirate said. He grabbed Hai-sun by the throat and lifted her off the ground. "You have lives we can take, and that's entertainment enough." "Stop!" Dr. So-Min shouted. "We'll cooperate. Just don't hurt anyone." The pirate leader considered this. "Fine. You and you," he pointed at Hai-sun and Dr. So-Min. "Come with us. The rest of you stay here. Try to run and we kill everyone." They dragged the 2 women out of the quarters. Other pirates stood guard at the door, weapons trained on the remaining humans. Kiwu's mind raced. He had to do something. But what could he do against armed Vralax warriors? Then he remembered. Ash. The pirates were taking Hai-sun and Dr. So-Min toward the docking bays, probably to their ship. But they would pass near Sector 9, near the containment area where Ash was held. Kiwoo looked at the pirates guarding them. They were focused on the main group, not on individuals. He slowly edged toward the back of the room, toward a maintenance hatch he knew led to the service tunnels. One of the other engineers, a man named Jae Sung, saw what he was doing. "Don't," he whispered. "They'll kill you." "They'll kill Ye-sun and Dr. So-min anyway," Kiwoo replied. "I have to try." He slipped through the hatch before anyone could stop him. The service tunnels were dark and empty. Everyone was either hiding or fighting. Kiwoo ran faster than he had ever run before, navigating the maze of passages toward Sector 9. He reached the containment area to find it abandoned. The security teams had all been pulled to defend against the pirates. The cell controls were locked, but Kiwoo had watched Dr. So-min operate them dozens of times. He pulled open the emergency panel and began overriding the safety protocols. Alarms blared. "Warning! Manual containment override detected. Category X specimen will be released. Warning!" Kiwoo didn't care. He typed in the final command, and the cell door slid open. Ash emerged slowly, cautiously. It looked around, confused by the sudden freedom. Then it saw Kiwoo, and its whole posture changed. The confusion became recognition. Kiwoo ran to Ash and pressed his hand against the creature's chest. "I need your help. My pack. They took my pack. The Vrelax warriors, they took Hye-sun and Dr. So-min. Please." Ash tilted its head, studying Kiwoo. Then it made that sound. The low rumble that Kiwoo had learned meant understanding. Ash lowered its head and pressed its forehead against Kiwoo's chest. The bonding gesture. "Thank you," Kiwoo breathed. "This way." They ran through the corridors together, an impossible sight, a human and a Category X predator moving as one. Kiwoo followed the sounds of fighting, trusting his hearing to guide them toward where the pirates would be. They found them in the main commerce ring. Korvax, the pirate warlord himself, stood in the center with his raiders. They had gathered hostages from multiple species, including Hye-sun and Dr. So-min. The women were bound, forced to their knees. "The Concordance will pay well to get them back," Korvax was saying. "And if they don't, we'll sell them to—" He stopped mid-sentence. His yellow eyes went wide. Every pirate turned to look at what had silenced their leader. Ash stood at the entrance to the commerce ring with Kiwoo beside it. The massive Vexran's scales seemed to absorb the light, making it look like a shadow given form. Its eyes glowed with predatory intelligence as it assessed the scene before it. "A Vexran?" one of the pirates whispered. "How did it get loose?" Korvax recovered quickly. "Kill it! Kill them both!" The pirates opened fire. Energy bolts filled the air. But Ash moved with a speed that seemed impossible for something so large. It dodged, weaved, and then it attacked. What happened next would be talked about across the station for years to come. Ash tore through the pirates like they were made of paper, its claws sliced through armor that was supposed to stop military-grade weapons. Its speed made the Vrelax warriors, who prided themselves on their combat prowess, look slow and clumsy. But Ash wasn't just killing randomly. It moved with purpose, with strategy. It positioned itself between the hostages and the pirates. It protected them, especially focusing on staying near where Hye-sun and Dr. So-min were bound. Korvax himself tried to fight. He was a legendary warrior, feared across multiple sectors. He charged at Ash with a massive blade, roaring a challenge. Ash caught the blade in one clawed hand, stopping it completely. Then it struck once, precise and devastating. Korvax fell. The remaining pirates broke and ran. But Ash pursued only those who were trying to harm the hostages. Those who fled were allowed to flee. It was selective, controlled. Nothing like the mindless killing machine everyone believed Vexrans to be. Within minutes, it was over. The commerce ring was silent except for the moans of wounded pirates and the sound of security teams finally arriving. Gormath and his guards stopped at the entrance, weapons raised. They stared at the scene before them. The dead pirates, the freed hostages, and in the center of it all, Ash standing protectively over Ki-Woo, Hisun, and Dr. So-Min. "Stand down," Gormath ordered his troops, though his voice shook slightly. "Nobody shoot." He approached slowly, never taking his eyes off Ash. The Vexren watched him, but didn't attack. Ki-Woo stood and placed his hand on Ash's arm. "It's okay," Ki-Woo said. "They're here to help now." Ash rumbled, a sound of acknowledgement. It stepped back from the hostages but remained close to Ki-Woo. Gormath stared at Ki-Woo, and for the first time since they'd met, there was respect in the Vralak's captain's eyes. "I was wrong about you, about your species. I thought you were weak. But weak species don't earn the loyalty of apex predators." Other aliens were gathering now, drawn by the commotion. They saw the scene. They saw the humans standing beside a Category X predator. They saw the bodies of pirates who had thought themselves invincible. They saw that strength came in many forms, and they would never mock the weak human again. The Galactic Concordance sent 3 representatives to Orbital Station Helix 7. They came to decide the fate of V-741, the Vexran that had broken containment and killed pirate raiders. They came to decide whether it would be destroyed, relocated, or returned to its cell. They did not expect to find it sitting calmly beside a human engineer in a conference room. Ki-Woo sat with his hand resting on Ash's arm. The massive predator was relaxed, its scales reflecting the soft lighting of the room. It had not shown any aggression since the battle. It had returned to its cell willingly, following Ki-Woo's gentle request. It had eaten, rested, and caused no trouble. But the Concordance representatives were still nervous. "This is highly irregular," the Mindari representative said, its telepathic voice echoing in everyone's minds. "A Category X specimen cannot simply be domesticated." "Ash isn't domesticated," Dr. So-Min argued. She stood at the front of the room, presenting her research data on screens. "Ash has formed a pact bond with Ki-Woo. It's a natural behavior for Vexrans, one we never understood because we never tried to communicate with them properly." The Chithrak's representative clicked its mandibles skeptically. "You claim this human has tamed a creature that destroyed 2 colony worlds?" "Not tamed," Ki-Woo spoke up. All eyes turned to him. "Ash isn't my pet. Ash is my friend, my family, and Ash chose not to kill when it could have. That shows intelligence and restraint." He stood, facing the representatives directly. During the pirate attack, Ash had every opportunity to go on a rampage. It was free. There were hundreds of potential victims. But it didn't attack randomly. It protected the innocent. It stopped the pirates. And when it was done, it stood down. "Because you told it to," the Vralak's representative, a dignified elder, not a warrior, said. "That's control, not choice." "Is it?" Dr. So-Min pulled up footage of the battle. "Watch here. Ki-Woo is with the hostages. Ash is across the room, fighting. Ki-Woo couldn't give orders. He was too far away and the fight was too loud. But Ash still made choices. It killed pirates who threatened innocents. It allowed those who fled to escape. It acted with purpose and morality." The footage played. The representatives watched in silence. Even they had to admit it was remarkable. The Vexren fought with precision, with restraint, with something that looked very much like honor. "There's more," Dr. So-Min continued. "My research has revealed something about Vexrans that the Concordance never knew. They're not mindless killers. They have complex social structures, just like humans. They value pack bonds, loyalty, and emotional connection. The reason they attacked the colony worlds was because those colonies invaded Vexran territory first. They were defending their families." The Mindari representative's telepathic presence grew thoughtful. "You're saying we judged an entire species based on their defensive actions?" "Yes," Dr. So-Min said firmly. and we imprisoned this individual without ever trying to understand it. Kiwu did what none of us thought to do. He treated Ash with kindness. He saw a person, not a monster, and Ash responded. The debate continued for hours. Kiwu stayed silent for most of it, his hand never leaving Ash's arm. He could feel the creature's tension. Ash understood in its way that its fate was being decided. Finally, the representatives called for a vote. The Vralax elder spoke first. I vote for supervised release into this human's custody. The Vexran has proven it can control itself when given reason to. And perhaps the Vralax have been wrong to judge strength only by physical power. I have learned something from watching these two together. The Chithrax clicked thoughtfully. I abstain. This is beyond my understanding, but I will not stand in the way of new knowledge. The Mindari was silent for a long moment. Its telepathic presence touched Kiwu's mind gently, asking permission. Kiwu nodded. He felt the being's consciousness brush against his thoughts, reading his sincerity, his bond with Ash. I vote for release, the Mindari said. This human's mind is clear, his intentions are pure, and the Vexran's mind is not what we thought. It thinks, it feels, it chooses. We have kept a sentient being imprisoned without cause. That ends now. Dr. Somin smiled. He-sun, watching from the back of the room, wiped tears from her eyes. The Concordance ruled that Ash would be released into Kiwu's custody as part of a cultural liaison experiment. They would be monitored, studied, and required to report regularly. But they would be together. When Kiwu told Ash the news in the privacy of the containment cell, the Vexran made a sound he had never heard before. A sound of pure joy. Word of the decision spread through the station quickly. The response was mixed. Some aliens were terrified, others were fascinated, but all of them saw humans differently now. Gormath approached Kiwu in the corridors 2 days after the ruling. The Vralax captain looked uncomfortable, like he was about to do something difficult. I owe you an apology, Gormath said. I called your species weak. I said you were prey playing at civilization. I was wrong. Kiwu started to respond, but Gormath continued. The Vralax value strength above all else. We thought that meant physical power, but you showed me something different. You showed me that the strength to earn loyalty from an apex predator is worth more than the strength to break bones. Your species has something we don't. Something valuable. What's that? Kiwu asked. You know how to make family where others only see tools or threats. That's a strength we never considered. Over the following weeks, everything changed. Other species began approaching the human crew with problems they considered impossible. A dispute between trading partners that seemed unsolvable. A technological issue that required creative thinking. Social conflicts that needed mediation. And slowly, the humans proved their worth. Not through physical might, not through military power, but through the things that made them human. Empathy, creativity, persistence, and the ability to form connections across impossible divides. Kiwu received a message from Earth. Humanity's government had heard about his success. They were offering him a position on the first deep space exploration vessel, the UCSS Discovery. They wanted someone who could bridge the gap between humans and the more dangerous species they might encounter. They wanted someone who spoke Predator. On the day Kiwu and Ash were scheduled to leave Helix 7, a crowd gathered at the docking bay. Humans and aliens alike came to see them off. Dr. So-Min was there, having accepted a position on the Discovery as well. Haya-sun hugged Kiwu tightly. You changed everything, she whispered. Not just for yourself, for all of us. They respect us now. They respect what we can be, Kiwu replied. They just needed to see it. The Discovery's captain, a sharp-eyed woman named Da-Un, met them at the airlock. She looked at Ash without fear, which Kiwu appreciated. Welcome aboard, Captain Da-Un said. I've read your file. Both of your files. I think you'll find the Discovery is a different kind of ship. We're going where no human has gone before. We'll meet species that don't know us. Some might be friendly, some might be hostile. And some might be like Ash, misunderstood. That's why we're here, Kiwu said. As the ship prepared to depart, Kiwu stood at a viewport with Ash beside him. The Vexran pressed its head against his shoulder, a gesture of affection they had developed. Through the window, he could see Helix 7 growing smaller as they accelerated away. They thought we were prey, Kiwu said quietly. They thought humans were too weak to survive in space. Too soft. Too emotional. Ash rumbled, a sound Kiwu now recognized as agreement. But they forgot something important. Prey doesn't befriend apex predators. Prey doesn't earn their loyalty or their protection. Predators do that. Pack hunters do that. And that's what humans are. We're pack hunters who hunt for connections instead of food. We hunt for family. He smiled, resting his hand on Ash's scaled arm. They mocked the weak human, but they didn't understand what makes us strong. It's not muscles or claws or armor. It's this. It's the ability to look at the most dangerous creature in the galaxy and see a friend. To see family. The Discovery jumped to hyperspace, carrying them toward unknown stars and undiscovered worlds. In the cargo bay, other humans worked alongside alien crew members. In the engineering deck, innovative minds from a dozen species solved problems together. And on the observation deck, a human and a Vexran stood side by side, watching the stars blur past. The galaxy had called humans weak. It had mocked them, pushed them aside, considered them prey. But now the galaxy was learning what humanity had always known. The strongest bonds aren't forged in battle. They're forged in trust, in loyalty, in the choice to stand beside someone not because you have to, but because you want to. And that kind of strength could change the universe. Kiwu looked up at Ash, and Ash looked back with those intelligent, understanding eyes. No words were needed. They were pack. They were family. And together, they would show the stars what humanity truly was. Not prey, not predators, but something better. Something the galaxy had never seen before. Family builders, bridge makers, the species that turned enemies into friends and monsters into protectors. The species that named the deadliest predator in the galaxy family and meant it. The journey was just beginning.